Thanks. Well, if you guys all came to hear the presentation titled "To Be Announced," I apologize. We're actually going to be talking about herbicides. So, I'm Debbie Morton. I'm with Dow Agrosciences. I cover the Midwest. If you want to consider Colorado, I don't know what you want to consider it. That's kind of why it's kind of tossed around from rep to rep. But I go from Missouri out here to Colorado. So if you have any questions on any of these herbicides, let me know. I also have a colleague here, Mac. He covers Utah and part of Idaho. So we've got a booth front and center, so come ask us questions if you have any. So what are we going to talk about today? First of all, how are we doing this morning? We good? All right. Caffeine kicked in? Perfect. I'm not a caffeine drinker, but once I have a couple glasses of water in the morning, I'm good. All right. So first we're going to talk about why we use herbicides. What are the pros? What are the cons? We're going to then go into product stewardship. It's kind of a hodgepodge presentation today. I'm going to apologize for that. We kind of wanted to cover some of the big questions you guys tend to have. So we're talking about product stewardship. We're going to really focus on volatility. Then we're going to move into application techniques, talk about basal bark applications and cut surface applications, and then move in onto a cell seeder project that took place in Utah. So why do we use herbicides? Well, got a few of the things listed up here. We have some benefits. They're selective to your selective control. You know, most of our herbicides are going to be safe on your grasses. We also are doing some studies with one of our herbicides, Milestone, and looking at native forb tolerances. So we're able to go in and control these invasive species and still keep your grasses, and in some cases even keep a lot of your native forbs, which is a big plus, because I know that that's very important to everyone. They work. If you use them correctly, you're going to get control. There's always a few instances where that doesn't happen like it should, but 99% of the time, if you use it properly, the right time, the right way, you're going to have good control. Less labor required. Some people think, man, it's a lot of work when I go out there and I'm cutting those trees down and treating that stump. Well, think about the alternative. What if you just cut it down and you never treated that stump? Most likely, you're going to be out there the next year cutting again. So that's why we say that there's less labor required. And also the cost-benefit ratio. We look at this a lot of times in roadside right-of-ways. By going out, they're able to use herbicides to control those invasive species along the roadsides. They're able to use some plant growth regulators to reduce, have seed head suppression. And by doing that, they're able to reduce their mowing cycles. This is kind of the same instance. You're going out and controlling brush. Instead of sending crews out year after year after year, cutting that same brush every year, you're able to go out, cut, treat, and then maybe come back the next year to follow up to treat some reed sprouts. But over time, you're really going to have a reduction, and you're not going to have to be out there every year cutting. Some of the drawbacks, obviously public perception. We get this a lot in our business as a herbicide manufacturer. I always get questions from people, especially when I'm out doing presentations. I'm a prairie enthusiast. I'll be out giving presentations to the prairie folks, and they're like, well, I just don't know how I feel about herbicides being used on these natural areas. They never used them, 60, 70, 80, 100, 150 years ago. I get all different numbers there. And I said, well, did we have the weed problems then that we have now? Well, no. Where do these weeds come from? Are there any natural predators? Well, no, not really. Well, then what other options do we have? We also have the risk of off-target damage, which we're actually going to move into that. So we really appreciate all of you guys that are using our herbicides, especially those that use our herbicides properly. That's a biggie. So what do we ask of you? When you're out there using herbicides, we ask to keep the total environment in mind. We have this turn around, look around spot. You know, you want to treat at the right time, in the right place, and in the right way. And that's a biggie. It's not only going to keep you safe, it's going to keep the environment safe, and that public perception, it's going to be a more positive look on herbicide use. All right, so what are some of the potential routes for non-target injury? We have spray drifts, which really that can be reduced very easily. If it's really windy outside, don't spray, and increase your droplet size when you're spraying. Volatility, which we're going to get more into that. Runoff is another potential way for herbicides to move, and improper equipment management. Basically, that comes down to making sure that it's working properly, clean it properly, and make sure you're using the right pressure and nozzles whenever you're spraying. So let's look at volatility. This one's something that's a little harder to understand just by the name, but it's a pretty simple concept. So basically, it's based on how the herbicide is formulated and the type of herbicide it is. Some are going to be more volatile than others. Some are non-volatile. Some are going to have a high risk of volatility. So what happens is that spray solution is going to settle on your site, and then it changes into a gas, and the wind moves it away. So it's not something that you're going to see. So here's a picture. This especially happens when it's really hot outside. Because when it's really hot, things are going to evaporate a lot quicker. And so that's when you're going to have more issues. So you go in, you spray. Those are plants. I know that it looks like something else, but they're plants. And that's not a smell coming off, that's the vapor. But what happens then is, I've got a pointer here, I think. So you spray your plants, it settles on your site, and maybe it starts to vaporize. That wind comes in, carries it over, and there we have our crop, which is our off-target, where we're getting our off-target damage. All right, so how can we reduce this? You want to look at the products. Some of them are going to have a higher risk of volatility, like I said. Use your low volatile formulations. You have some low volatile esters, you have your amines. If you're using Garlon, you can switch. If it's really hot outside, you can switch to a Garlon 3A versus Garlon 4 Ultra. That's a definite plus. And this is a biggie. Try to minimize how much of your spray solution gets onto rocks, pavement, anything like that. Because if you get it onto the plant's going to absorb most of it. If you get it on a rock, that rock's not going to take any of it in. It's just going to dry on that rock, it's going to turn into vapor, and that wind's going to take it off. So here's kind of a list. We have water, which is non-volatile, all the way up. Triclopure ester, that's one of the products we're going to talk about today, Garlon 4 Ultra. Is anybody familiar with that, Garlon 4 Ultra? Awesome. Got some hands up. I like interaction. I know what it's like to sit in the crowd. So I'll be asking some questions from time to time, and I'll want some answers, so I appreciate the hands up. So you can see it says low volatile, but we do have issues when it's warm outside, so that is something to be aware of. So let's look at a project where they use this. And I'm going to ask from lovely ladies in front, can I get my 20-minute? Okay, perfect. Okay, so they came in. This is actually salt cedar 1 year after treatment. They did a cut surface application using Garlon 4 Ultra with a basil oil. Great results. No 1 year after, not really seeing any resprouting. However, you can see down here where one of the stumps was, and you kind of look up in these cottonwoods, you're getting some browning of the leaves, and that was due to volatility. All right, if you look here, same thing, treated all around, but then in the perimeter you had some cottonwoods. Again, they were not affected. So it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes you're going to get volatility, sometimes you're not. You might even be spraying the same day. But it really, it's kind of hit and miss. But what did they determine? You know, they got 95 to 90%, 97% control of the salt cedar using the Garland 4 Ultra. The damage, if you want to call it that, to those cottonwoods was very minimal, and they all came back the next year. So their conclusion was it was worth it. So don't let the chance of volatility scare you off from a project. Any questions so far? All right. Yes. I think I know what temperatures should we watch?
What temperatures would you suggest that like are the limits of garland for?
Generally, if it's 90 plus degrees, I would be careful. Especially if you have some susceptible trees around. I think we maybe even say 85 and above. But I really start to see more issues. I saw more this summer, and I live in Kansas City. There were more around my area, and that was because we were seeing 95 plus degree days for day after day after day. So really, if it's getting above 90 degrees, you're spraying around some susceptible trees, you might want to be a little more careful. And in that case, if you're doing a cut surface application, you can change from Garland 4 Ultra, spray Garland 3A. And it's way less volatile.
How about humidity? Does it make any difference?
Just asking if humidity makes a difference. I'm not 100% sure on that, I'll be honest. I'm sure it does play a role, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what levels of humidity you'd be looking at to see the difference in volatility.
Logically, it would seem to me that the drier it is, the more volatile the chemical the air can pick up.
Yes, I would agree with that, but I'm not sure where that level falls with humidity. You're welcome. All right. Well, let's move on to application techniques. Now that we've talked about using herbicides properly, as far as product stewardship goes, let's talk about how to properly apply. So we've got several different types of ways to apply herbicides. We can go in with a foliar application, either with a backpack or with a boom sprayer. Cut stubble, we can go put it out with a helicopter. But we're going to focus on cut surface and basal applications. I think those are the two that people use a lot, but they also do them improperly a lot. So let's look at the basal applications. This is one of our colleagues. He's out here, he's going to demonstrate. I have some videos, but we're not going to show his videos. But this is basically what you need. You need your backpack sprayer. You need to have a brass tip to where you can change. You want to be able to adjust how that herbicide comes out. So it's pretty simple. He's obviously wearing his proper PPE, long sleeves, long pants. He is wearing shoes and socks down there. Can't see it, but he's got them on. So here's a picture of after an application. Who here has done a basal bark application? All right, great. Sometimes I go in and people look at me like, what are you talking about? It's really a great method to control woody species. So you're looking at it here, you're spraying about knee-high on the base of that tree. You want to treat the entire circumference. And on a multi-stem species, you want to treat around every stem. And we usually recommend treating, the biggest that you're going to be treating is about a 6 to 8 inch diameter tree. So if you have anything bigger than that, a cut surface application would probably be better. And spray from the top down. That way, if some of it does start to run, it's just going to run down your tree and not down onto the ground. Anything that's down on the ground is wasted herbicide. Here's a picture. This was a basal application made beginning of May, and this picture was taken in the end of May. So you can see you get quick results. Really, it just looks like fall color. All right, so cut surface applications. You're going to have two different ways of approaching a cut surface application. You can go with a water-based herbicide, which would be something like the Garlon 3A. You can use that as straight product or mix it with water in a 50-50 solution. Another is Pathway, is another herbicide you can use. You guys would probably be sticking to the Garlon though for salt seed or Russian olive control. So you really just need to treat that cambium layer. So you're looking at the outer 2 inches. If you're using a water-based herbicide. If you're using an oil-based, which would be the same mix as your basal work that you're doing, so the Garlon at Garlon 4 at 25% and 75% oil. On that one, you need to treat not only that cambium layer, but you need to treat down the sides of the stump. So don't cut your stump at ground level, because you need to get some of that herbicide down into the sides of that stump. With a water-based treatment, you need to treat immediately. So when you get in there, cut it, treat it. With an oil-based, you can give it a little more time. You can wait, a couple weeks, really, if you want to, but we recommend spraying as soon as you can. There's no size limit. You can treat whatever size stump. I generally recommend not treating really small stumps. Just you're not getting enough herbicide on there. So if you have something, you just do a basal application on it if it's below, say, 2 or 3 inches. Basically, when you make an application, you want to make sure that you're applying your herbicide to the correct part of the tree or plant. So in this, if you're spraying something and it's supposed to be a foliar application, make sure you're spraying the leaves. If it's a basal application, make sure you're treating the bark. The same way with a cut surface, make sure you're putting it in the proper location. And that's going to help ensure better results. All right, I was going to do a little quiz, but we're running out of time, so we're just going to go through to this project that we have in Utah. I think this is a really cool project. It's actually, Boy Scouts came out and helped. My brother was a Boy Scout, so I'm always excited when there's something with Boy Scouts. So what they did, they had 5 sites, 5 days, 5,000 volunteers. And this is we're going to talk about one of the sites. It was about 10 miles in length. They were going to lop and scatter all the cut parts above the high water mark, and then they're going to treat the stumps with Garlon 4 Ultra. So here you can see the area that they were treating, down here. Just a little bit about Garlon 4 Ultra. It's triclopyr is, sorry, I keep getting too close to the mic here. Triclopyr is the active ingredient in Garlon, and it can be applied either as a basal application or a cut surface application. And basically, what they used was 25% Garlon 4 Ultra and 75% oil, and it's a basal oil. You can alter that a bit. You can cut that back to maybe 20% Garlon 4 Ultra and add in the product Milestone at maybe 2%. It just depends on what you're wanting to do. You can look at it price-wise, everything like that. But we've seen actually a little bit better results in some instances with adding a Milestone in. Okay, so to cut the trees at least 2 inches above the soil surface and apply the herbicides within a few minutes after cutting. I'm going to go through to these pictures at the 1 minute mark. So here he is looking at it. Well, should I cut it with these loppers? Buddy comes in. No, we need to use a chainsaw. So they come in, cut it down. These kind people come, treat the stump, and it's done. Pretty quick process. Here's what the stump looks like after they've treated it. Here's the control plot. This is untreated. You can see, if you don't treat it, you're going to be coming back and recut it. And you can see where they've treated. Really good control. They're looking at just over 97% reduction in the canopy 12 months after application, and still 95% 24 months after. And they did get, they went back and treated the resprouts for full eradication. All right, so here we've got the picture. This was pre-treatment, 2008, and this is 1 year after. You can see the red is where the salt cedar was, so you can see a significant reduction. All right, so we went over talking about why we use herbicides. When you're applying them, turn around, look around, use the right place, right time, and the right way. Proper application is key, and garland for oil trust or salt cedar control. Any questions?
I'm wondering with spraying mixed up, what would be the maximum height of the mixed drugs that you would want to treat for really good?
Okay. She's asking on what the height is of the resprouts to get the maximum results. We would like to see at least 3 to 4 feet minimum, and I think about 6 feet is about the max. So you want to hit it somewhere in that window. And actually, at our booth, we do have a fact sheet talking about salt cedar control, and we've got some information on treating resprouts, talking about our recommendations for basal applications, cut surface applications, and for foliar treatment of resprouts. So, but basically you're going to be using the same garland 4 ultra and mixing it with milestone for retreatment. Yes? It's asking if there's a benefit of girdling with a basal application. You know, if you're using that oil-based herbicide, it can break through that bark and get in. I don't think there's probably much benefit at all. It's just more work. If I'm incorrect on that and somebody else has seen better results using girdling, you know, please let us know. But I think it's just going to be extra work. All right. Well, I'm going to get the boot if I don't get off of here. I like this picture. Always wear your proper PPE when applying herbicides. Thank you all.